Welcome back to The Explainer. When we look back at history's great polymaths, people like Da Vinci or Tesla, they were driven by this immense, self-directed purpose and individualism. But today, we're facing what you might call an atrophy of purpose. If you've been feeling that deep, biological exhaustion from endlessly scrolling, you are literally paying down a dopamine debt. Today, we're tracing an invisible string from that very real algorithmic dependency all the way to monumental, earth-shaking shifts in the global physical world of 2026. Let's get right into it.
So, it really makes you wonder, if our digital habits are fundamentally rewiring us, what is actually powering this new reality? We kind of have this habit of thinking about the internet as this weightless, ethereal cloud, right? But every single prompt you type, every video you swipe past, and every image an AI generates demands massive, heavy, physical infrastructure. We're going to look at how the invisible digital actions of billions of people are having incredible, tangible consequences for our physical energy grids and, believe it or not, global geopolitics.
To make sense of this massive ripple effect, here is our micro to macro roadmap. 1. The social media verdict. 2. AI's battle for data. 3. AI's growing energy appetite. 4. Automating geopolitical narratives. And finally, number 5, a fractured global economy.
Let's kick things off with Section 1, the social media verdict.
We absolutely have to start with the very foundation of how we consume digital content, because over the summer of 2026, the legal system shook that foundation to its core. Juries are now actively holding tech giants accountable for this dopamine debt we talked about. A jury recently found both Instagram and YouTube liable in a landmark social media addiction trial. Meta specifically was found to blame for addiction among young users, a verdict they've officially appealed. Now, we are just impartially reporting the facts here, but what this beautifully illustrates is that the psychological toll of digital consumption, this complete transition into algorithmic dependency, is now being recognized as a legally actionable liability. It's a massive shift.
Moving right along to Section 2, AI's battle for data.
As these platforms are getting heavily scrutinized for how they keep us hooked, the next generation of algorithms, the AI models themselves, are triggering a completely different kind of corporate warfare. Take this recent development, for example. Meta just had to pull the plug on a brand new AI tool following massive public pushback. Why? Because it was automatically accessing public Instagram images to generate content. It's this intense collision. You have tech giants with an absolutely insatiable hunger for data to train their models, slamming right into a public that is finally trying to protect its digital footprint.
And this is definitely not just a user versus platform issue. It is a full-on platform versus platform brawl. Just look at the legal gold rush dominating 2026. Apple is suing ChatGPT maker OpenAI over stolen trade secrets. You have major news outlets locked in high-stakes copyright fights with OpenAI to protect their journalism. Even the New York Times is in a countersuit with a federal agency alleging political retaliation. The race to feed these systems has literally turned the courtroom into a battlefield.
Which brings us to Section 3, AI's growing energy appetite.
Now we have to pivot from the digital courtroom to the physical real world. This is where the cloud hits the ground. To grasp the staggering infrastructure needed to power our AI future, just look at this contrast. On one side, we are seeing traditional gas plants rising rapidly just to feed the massive energy demands of AI data centers. I mean, Meta is pouring billions into a new data center in Canada alone. But on the other hand, renewable energy advocates are fiercely fighting for cleaner alternatives. The problem is, this unprecedented digital strain is happening so fast and so vast, our grids are just struggling to keep up with sustainable solutions.
And honestly, this brings up a pretty stark reality check from the World Bank. While tech giants are dropping billions on facilities to train language models, think about this. 9 out of every 10 people in the world who live without access to electricity today are located in sub-Saharan Africa. It's a massive, glaring inequality. We are pouring unimaginable amounts of power into AI while basic electricity is still a luxury for hundreds of millions of people.
But there is some pushback happening to bridge that gap. Look at this number, $900 million. That represents new clean cooking commitments recently secured by Africa. It is a really vital reminder of the competing priorities on the global stage right now. We're choosing between powering the latest tech and providing basic, clean, life-sustaining energy.
All right, Section 4, automating geopolitical narratives.
So, we know these AI systems are consuming massive amounts of energy, but what are they actually doing with it? Well, they're actively shaping how we understand global crises. Listen to this exact prompt accepted by Gemini AI. I can act as your specialized geopolitical research assistant, scriptwriter, and visual director for your social media platform. That is not theoretical, folks. Advanced AI is being explicitly instructed to automate the generation of geopolitical news. It scrapes the news, structures the arguments, designs the graphics, essentially becoming a homogenized, automated filter between complex world events and the feeds you scroll through.
And here's exactly how it's programmed to filter reality. It uses this tri-perspective breakdown. It can instantly package an event through a Western lens, focusing on G7 narratives and transatlantic policies, using sources like AP and ABC News. Or it can just instantly flip to an Eastern perspective, highlighting multipolarity and Eurasian integration via Xinhua or RT. The AI isn't taking a side. It's neutrally packaging these completely opposing viewpoints into highly digestible, bite-sized content for social media.
To put this into perspective, let's look at a real-world flashpoint these systems are digesting right now: the Strait of Hormuz. In 2026, an escalating US-Iran conflict is threatening the world's most critical energy artery. The stakes literally couldn't be higher. The US has demanded Iran publicly state the strait is open and attacks will cease. Meanwhile, Iran warns a war with the US won't end in surrender. Markets are absolutely bracing for impact, with Brent crude sitting heavily at $76.01 per barrel. This is exactly the kind of highly volatile, real-world conflict that gets processed into the digital narratives we casually scroll past.
And to ground those stakes in hard numbers, the AI relies on analytical databases like the World Power Index, which measures a nation's comprehensive resource and military capabilities. You can see the US maintains a dominant index score of 0.952 compared to Iran's 0.593. By integrating these indexes, the technology attempts to quantify raw physical military power into clean little glowing data visualizations for our screens.
Finally, Section 5, a fractured global economy.
Let's zoom all the way out. We've gone from personal dopamine debt and social media addiction to corporate tech wars, energy grid strain, and geopolitical flashpoints. So how does this impact the entire global landscape? Well, just 2 years ago in 2024, World Bank data showed travel and tourism made up a massive 10% of global GDP. People were moving, economies were interconnected, and physical global exploration, real-world intimacy, was a massive driver of wealth.
Now contrast that physical vibrancy with this stark projection for 2026, 2.5%. That is the World Bank's current projection for global economic growth. That growth is being actively dragged down by sharp energy price spikes, driven heavily by those Middle Eastern conflicts we just discussed, and the unprecedented strain on our global resources. Global financial institutions absolutely see this happening. The IMF reported in July 2026 that the global economy is explicitly caught right in the crosscurrents of war and technology. They're operating with an SDR interest rate of 2.815%. They clearly recognize this undeniable clash between our rapid, hungry technological expansion on one side and localized physical warfare and resource constraints on the other. Which leaves us with this final provocative thought. We started with our digital habits and traced them all the way to global supply chains. But when you look at the massive energy demands of data centers and how algorithms are shaping our view of human conflict, you really have to ask, are the very AI systems we're building to analyze global crises ultimately contributing to the severe physical and energy strains of our world? And are they simultaneously trapping us in an exhausting cycle of dopamine debt and algorithmic dependency? It is a sobering cycle of cause and effect, and it proves that nothing in our digital world is truly invisible. Thank you for joining me for this explainer today. Keep asking those big questions, and I'll see you next time.